fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren.
Heard on KCAA 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery, and of course I'm Al Warren, and my co-host today is Mr. Michael Jack the Ripper Hawley.
Oh, that is correct, Al. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing okay. You know, surviving
Yeah.
the COVID. You know,
You said you've had it for a week now, right?
yeah, it's been a week, and I'm still here.
As I said when I had it, it was all about hydrating with Pedialyte, and it really saved me.
Yeah, I know. Got to take care. That's how it is. But you know, moving on now. Today we've got another great writer here who's done a new book. This is book 8 of her series. It's called A Mind to Murder, and it's of course her Emmeline Kirby Gregory Longdon mystery series. And welcome to the show, Daniella Bernett. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Nice speaking with you, Daniella.
Yeah. Hi.
So Daniella, now you got into book 8.
Yes.
Do you have this kind of planned ahead of time? Did you know you wanted to do a book 8 when you had 7 out, or just this sort of something that comes up all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, I had a series in mind when I started the first book. So I leave a little something in one book, develop more in the next book. And I like to leave something hanging on the last page of the previous book to have readers want to read what the next adventure, but also to help to propel me on the path for the next book. So when I was doing 7, I definitely had 8 in mind.
Wow. So how do you start a series like this when you have 8 books in it? Is this something that it just kind of came to you a long time ago, and you knew there was going to be quite a few books to the series, and you knew what you wanted to do? Was that all in you somewhere ahead of time?
Yeah, it was. You know, it started with, first you develop the character, because character is what drives your story. So once I had my 2 protagonists in mind, Emmeline Kirby, who's the editorial director of investigative features at the Clarion newspaper in London, and her now husband, Gregory Longdon, who's a jewel thief / insurance investigator. Yes, I had them both in mind. Once I had their character sketches in my mind, then their stories, their adventures came easily, because I knew how I wanted them to interact and how I wanted them to grow and develop in each book.
Do you actually experience your characters firsthand? Do you see them, feel them, hear them, and all that? Or are you not that type of writer?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, I think all authors are that way, because you have to completely understand your character and their flaws and their good qualities, so that you know how they would react in a certain situation, or what situation to drop them into to create tension, to have the cauldron of trouble boil and bubble more. So character is essential, and for an author to know every facet of the character is essential, so that you can create the story, create their story, because they're telling me their story, and I'm putting that on the page.
Do you find it as easily exciting to you to write a character that's, say, evil or bad intent as it is to someone that's good?
Yes, I think so, because I mean, my villains, I want to show they have to be clever and intelligent, as a contrast, a portrait in contrast to Emmeline and Gregory, who, you know, are on the side of good, although they're shades of gray with Gregory since he's a jewel still.
Right.
But I wanted to have that distinct line, because I mean, the villain has to be intelligent too, to pose a challenge for Emmeline and Gregory as they solve the crimes, as they follow the leads to capture and ensure that justice is done in the end.
But so do you want your readers to kind of root or be in behind any of the bad characters? Do you ever kind of do that?
I don't think so. my villains, I like the villain in this story. Her name is Verena Penrose. The darkest corner of hell is too good for Verena. So I want my readers to hate her and my other villains as much as I do. I mean, I have fun creating evil villains because I know in the end, Emmeline and Gregory will get them.
Oh, I always find that an interesting kind of concept, because so many people in the world, you know, when they're watching or reading a book or seeing a movie or show about someone, and there's a bad character that's well developed as well as good characters. And quite often it turns out where people kind of root for the bad character. And I always find that to be an interesting way of writing, and you know, to put something that makes you feel for the bad person. Maybe this is why they're so evil, but I guess that's not what you're doing. But you know.
Well, I try to, you know, as I explain the murderer's motivations or the criminal's motivation, because it's not always a murder. You have to understand why, in the end, the criminal did whatever they were accused of. You have to understand their point of view, because everybody has their own point of view why they're doing something. They don't, I mean, obviously the criminal doesn't think that he or she is doing anything wrong. You know, they have their justifications for that. And I want the reader to understand what, from the villain's point of view, what his or her justification is. But in the end, you know, the justice has to be served and the culprit has to pay for the crime. I mean, it would go against an ordered world if a criminal is not brought to justice.
So you have the criminal definitely lack remorse as well. So yes, he's definitely a bad guy.
Yeah. He or she has to go to jail or be punished for whatever the crime was.
I gotcha.
Do you think of real people you know when you create these characters, or do you take from people you see in the world, perhaps, or something? Do you take parts of who this person is that's really bad and kind of go, well, you know, and you kind of put them into your character?
Well, I think all characters are a bit of the author. They put into the villain or the hero. But I just want to remind you on this token of that old saying: never get an author mad, because you will be the next murder victim in her book. So just keep that in mind.
That's right. So next time you're out reviewing one of Daniella's books, make sure you're nice.
So Daniella, though, you're talking to people that write nonfiction. So if that really happened, that's not good.
Well,
I only murder people on the printed page. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. It's cleaner, that's for sure.
Yeah.
True.
No, I don't get my hands messy. You know, I just plot it all out. But I only kill people on the printed page.
Yeah, it's easier that way. Much easier. Now, I find it interesting. So the story itself, so you're really focused on the characters. So the story itself, in a way, is kind of a way of, let's say, having your characters grow or go through a challenge. And that's sort of when you get to know something about them. So it must be very, you have to be particular about what kind of growth you want to see them in, like what you want to see happen to them and how they are supposed to come out. Is that kind of the main thought behind the happening in the story or the book?
Well, yes. I mean, it has to reflect, like, what happens in a book has to reflect life. We all in life, we encounter different people and involved in different situations, and that shapes us in different ways, for good or for bad. And that has to be reflected in a book, because a story, the stories I tell, the stories that any author tells, is a lie, because it's not the truth, but it has to reflect real life and the truth, so that readers will be encouraged to keep turning pages. So yes, I throw my characters into situations to help them grow, or for me as the author or the reader to see how they would react, how this challenge helps them to move on or is a setback for them.
Yeah. Do you ever try to show your good characters maybe in not such good light? I mean, and I'm saying it in a sense of, so they get thrown with a challenge, they get hit with something that happens, and they have to get beyond this. But sometimes they don't always handle it maybe the way they should have. Is that sort of important too?
Well, yes. I mean, that's equally important, because again, you're trying to reflect things that happen in real life. I have Gregory, for example. He's the jewel thief still. That was what he was born to do. But when he and Emmeline got married, she gave him an ultimatum that he has to find legitimate employment or she will not marry. He ended up finding a job as an insurance investigator. But life is too dull, and he still steals jewels. Because he needs that adrenaline rush.
Does she know about it?
No, she doesn't. She does, she would strangle him. So, he has to balance this line, so I want my readers to like him and to understand him, but yet he has this dark side, and the secrets of his past are still hovering there in the background and are always a threat to their relationship. So I try to weave that in. For example, and to show his darker side and how these secrets impact not only him, but now that he's married to Emmeline, how it could affect her as well. Like 2 books back in When Blood Runs Cold, a nemesis from his past threatened the two of them, and how they dealt with that and how they moved beyond that, I tried to show in the book. And in the 3rd book, when their relationship was before they got married, and the relationship was still unsteady and the landscape of it was changing, I threw someone in from his past that she didn't know about, and had a completely big impact on how they dealt with each other, and how I wanted to show how they moved beyond that. But secrets are a way in my books that pose a challenge, an ongoing challenge for them and their relationship.
Wow.
So if your readers do not know if in future books they might be divorced.
Well, it's like he left her once before. She's not only because of his secrets, and she always has that fear in the back of her mind that he's going to leave her again. He has a justification in his mind, but she's always afraid, even though they're married now, and she knows he loves her more than life itself. She's always afraid that possibly one day he might leave her again for some unknown reason. So I weave that in as well, so that they're moving on, their marriage is developing, and yet there's always that threat in the background.
How old are they?
He's 42 and she's 31.
Okay.
Yeah, and when he turns 50, he's going to have a sex change operation.
No, not quite. But
oh no! Oh, we're just guessing.
Well, I thought, come on, let's modernize it some. No. Well, that's interesting. So at the end of the book, is there something you hoping that readers carry away with them that, other than the entertainment, of course?
Well, yeah, I mean, I leave something on the last page, leave them wondering how Emmeline and Gregory are going to extricate themselves from that situation. And that's how I start book 9, which I'm working on.
Wow. So when you have the evil character here, like do you find it difficult to get into the head of someone so evil and someone so bad? Like you were mentioning about, darkest corners of hell isn't good enough for her and type thing. Do you have a problem kind of feeling that out when you're writing?
Well, I mean, the character, her name is Verena Penrose. She's a tabloid reporter who has, she specializes in blackmail and salacious exposés. And that is a contrast to Emmeline, who wants to ensure transparency and make sure that the public is aware of news or whatever the news is. So I have that contrast of the good journalist versus the unscrupulous one. So that's one aspect of it. But on the other hand, Verena is anti-Semitic and nasty and is arrogant and full of herself. Now, I despise people like that. And, I want to show in my book Emmeline's reaction to that, but also for readers to be incensed by that type of person, because, anti-Semitism, there's a resurgence in the world now, and we can't let people like that or something like that go on. It's just, it's chaos in an ordered world, and everybody should be incensed by that. So I try to show different aspects of that and to make readers angry, I'm angry with this person or people who react like this. So readers should be like that. And I want readers to also think about certain things like that and how change should be made to redress that situation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's sort of such a difficult thing. So when you're sitting there putting this together and writing this character and you're getting angry, how do you not kill her? Like
well, I do.
Times?
In the end.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, but throughout.
I did.
Why not?
It's like, okay, I've had enough of you. It's time to die.
Yeah. Wow.
I just have to decide on the manner of her death. But it's like, okay, you've made me too angry, because especially I have a short temper and I'm impatient. So it's like, okay, that's enough of you. It's time to die.
Well, then, but your protagonist, Emmeline, Emmelina, Emily, she tries to then solve that case in a way, right?
Yes, because as I said, Emmeline is always, and Gregory too, they believe that justice should be served. So even though Verena is so nasty and so despicable, she feels that she deserves justice. Plus, as I said, in that interaction in the intermission during the performance at the theater, when they saw her, Emmeline suspects that there was something underneath all Verena's usual nastiness, that somehow she was asking for Emmeline's help. So that's too tantalizing for Emmeline to give up. She has to find out. And when they find Verena's body at the theater, they soon come to realize that she tried to make an enemy of the Raven, who's an international assassin who has ties to the Russians, and ETA, the Basque militant group. So naturally, Emmeline has to find out who this Raven is and unmask him and make sure that justice is served. Because even someone as despicable as Verena deserves justice. That's Emmeline's point of view. Plus, she needs to find out the truth.
Yeah, international assassin. I don't know if I'd want to try to mess with that one.
Well, Emmeline is the type of, as my readers know, Emmeline is the type of person that plunges into predicaments where angels fear to tread. And that gets her into a lot of trouble.
Well, so what is the hardest thing for you to do? I mean, this is, first of all, you're taking place in European countries and Europe and stuff. So what kind of research or sort of, I don't know, what kind of work do you have to do to kind of lay the groundwork for this?
Well, this book, A Mind to Murder, is set in London and Madrid. Now, I've been to London and the UK, different parts of the UK, numerous times. So I know them very well. And I've been to Madrid too. So in my books, the scenes and the places in my books, I've visited them. So that way I'm able to give readers a sense of the sights and sounds and feel of a place, which I like to do. I like to make them feel like they've been transported there. So usually I don't go to a place to do research. It's when I'm somewhere, the place inspires me to set a scene, or the history of a city like Madrid, or its conflicts with ETA, the Basque militant group. Those set ideas spinning in my head that help me create the story, or help guide my story, or enrich it, even the story that I wanted to tell, enrich it even more, because every place has a history and I can weave that into my stories.
Great. Does that ever sort of get you a little bit, I mean, because you have to kind of get into the groups, like you were talking about the Basque and stuff like that. So do you ever sort of get a little bit terrified by that sort of writing into that sort of thing?
Well, sure. I mean, these, conflicts and things like, or this militant group who killed 800 people during its reign, that's terrifying. But it's current events. It's what has been happening. So we have to be aware of that and these conflicts to ensure that maybe we must learn from things like that, so these things don't continue to happen. So I've always been interested in history, and I think as a journalist, Emmeline's interested in history too, because you have to understand the past to see how things evolved to the way they are today, and hopefully learn from mistakes and ensure that in the future we don't do them.
Well, who's your favorite character?
Oh, that's difficult. I mean, I love Emmeline and Gregory too. He's very dashing and charming, but I have a soft spot too for Superintendent Oliver Bernett of Scotland Yard. He's very gruff and tough, and he always has this cat and mouse game with Gregory, because he knows that Gregory is still stealing jewels, but he's never been able to catch him at it. And Gregory always likes to needle him. So I have a soft spot for Bernett as well. And then, of course, there's the subsequent characters, Philip Acheson of the Foreign Office, who is also MI5 agent, and his wife Maggie, who's Emmeline's best friend. And of course I have fun with Emmeline's grandmother Helen, who's always is mischievous and adds a little bit of fun to the stories, and she loves Gregory. So
some of these characters do go through the books. It's not like you have those characters kind of like follow your protagonists.
Oh yeah, they do, because they help. They're part of the ensemble, part of my storylines. Whether in one book they have a greater role, or a lesser one in the next one. But yeah, they help to we all as people have our own little groups, our family, our friends, our enemies that we interact with and help shape us and create the stories of our lives. So I try to do that in my books.
Right. And I friended Al on Facebook. So.
Yeah, several times. Do you understand why you find yourself writing books like you do? Like, is there some meaning for you, or something that comes back to you every time you finish another novel?
Well, I mean, since I was a little kid, I've always liked mysteries and spy thrillers. I find them exciting, and creating twists and turns in my book, and just trying to figure, because for me, it's always been about the puzzle, not about the blood and the guts that were spilled, but about the puzzle and the clues that the author drops, and and not being sent off on a tangent by the red herrings. I always found that fun, trying to unravel the puzzle and decide who the murderer is before the sleuths do. So that's fun for me. It's a game, then I enjoy doing it and creating my own stories with the different layers and the twists to keep readers engaged.
Wow.
So does that mean you'll have anytime you'll have antagonists as serial killers, or is that?
No, I don't like that. I don't like serial. There's certain things I like to do, like serial killing or child murders or rapes and things like, more gruesome things like that. I don't like that. My novels, yes, there's a murder, but I don't spend too much time on the blood and guts. And I like to weave in espionage in there because I think, again, as I said, I love spy thrillers, so I love weaving that in there as well. Because it's the puzzle. Again, it comes down to the puzzle and how that unravels.
Are you inspired by spy thrillers, like other people that write those types of novels or movies or shows or things like that?
Sure, I think so. Yeah, I think I'm inspired by spy thrillers, or in terms of mysteries, my favorite, my hero is Agatha Christie. So I think a melding of those two genres is what I do, or I try to do in my books.
Wow. Yeah, fascinating writer. Fascinating. Well, so where do you see yourself going now? So you've got, this is book 8. You said you kind of briefed that you've already got 9. I'm
working on it. I'm working on 9 now. So. Wow.
So that just sort of one book leads to another, just sort of lights the fire then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the way, that's why I like to leave something dangling on the last page, to leave readers breathless and also to help move me into my next book, set me on the path to the next book and create more trouble for Emmeline and Gregory.
So hooking yourself as the author.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to, it's like I have to keep myself busy.
Well, you're making them wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have to wait. And
yes, but anticipation is half the fun.
Yes. Wow. Reading J.K. Rowling's books did that to me. So yes.
Wow. So now how do people find you? Do you have a website, and do you have like a social media presence? Where do you like readers to come and interact?
Sure. My website is DanielaBurnett.com, and that's Bernett with an E. And I'm on Facebook. I'm on Goodreads, on BookBub. And on my website, there's an email address where readers can contact me. I love hearing from people, so they can send me a little email or interact with me on Facebook. I'm always happy to speak to readers about writing, about books, about anything.
Wow. Okay. We'll have that up as well, so people can find you with one click if they're listening, so, you're going to start traveling more now? Are you getting out there yet, or are you kind of waiting?
Well, I finally, the last week in August, first week in September, for my sister and I went to London that was our first trip in 3 years. So it was nice to be back again.
Yeah.
Because I love traveling so much. I love learning about the history of a place, or just interacting with the people, because you learn so much about their lives and society. It's very enjoyable for me, and I grow as a person, and I'm always learning. And I think we as human beings are a daily basis. We learn things and should be open to learning things and be curious about different things and people.
Right. Yeah. And how's taking the plane?
Oh, it was actually all right. Although I was surprised, only a few people wore masks on the plane. It was very strange. And in London, they have no restrictions with masks. You don't have to wear a mask anywhere. I mean, we were wearing the masks in the underground, but everywhere they've dropped those restrictions. It was odd coming from here where we still have that. And for me, I don't mind. I'm safe. I haven't had COVID. I've had all my shots and boosters, but still it was odd.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to be careful. And even with your shots and boosters, you can still get it.
Yes, I know.
Al, like Al, right?
I can tell you that. So it happens.
But it was wonderful seeing London again. I've been an Anglophile since I was a little kid, so I just love London. It's it's like another home for me. When I go back, it's like, I don't need a map. I don't need anything. I know where I'm going.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. Well, it's been a great little conversation with you, and I love it that you're just right into it. Your new book, A Mind to Murder, and it's book 8 in your Emmeline Kirby Gregory Longdon
series. Yeah.
No, I just had it's crazy. I had a guest on named Langdon. And so when I was writing that, I was like, I find them, Anyway, it's been a real pleasure. So, Daniella, Bernett, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I had fun chatting. Thank
Great
you
speaking with you
for having me.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.